Vinland Saga Season 2 is out. 2 episodes are out as of right now. And it's been one of my favorite watches so far, even though it's only been 2 episodes, because it feels like there's so much to take away in just the 2 episodes that we have in terms of Einar and Thorfinn, considering those are really the only 2 characters that have been a pivotal focus in terms of what we've seen so far. Now, first I want to talk about Thorfinn's character and what I can perceive right now, because I'm not a manga reader as of yet, but I'm letting you know if like the next 4 episodes, I just can't wait for this anymore. I'm just going to read it. But Thorfinn's character is kind of what I expected, but not to this degree. Because Thorfinn is really coming off stoic, passive, and he really keeps to himself and is very obedient, considering, now he's a slave. And compared to what we were seeing in season 1, he's completely opposite. He's made a complete 180 in terms of what we've been accustomed to seeing. And it makes sense because of what Askeladd said to him. Basically saying him, live, go venture the world, do these things that Vikings don't really appreciate in the lifestyle that they're living, because there's more to just fighting. There's more to just killing, revenge, and that way of battle that your father kind of groomed him in. But his father was really telling him the same thing Askeladd was saying, but in a way that was a little too vague for Thorfinn, because he was always letting him know like how strong, or what the meaning of strong and strength means, and what a true warrior is. And Thorfinn really never put that together, and I think we're gonna see in this season he's gonna figure that out in some sort of way, whether it takes a long time or a short time. Because even when Einar was going, the people that were kind of antagonizing them, they, I guess, took their lunch and they ate it. And Einar thought that the lunches were going to be something big, and he didn't get that. So when he wanted to fight against the workers, I don't really know what to call them, because they're not the retainers. They took the food from the retainers. When he got the food from them, he wanted to fight them. And you see Thorfinn tell him to back off, just do what they say. This is not something you should be going up against, because I think Thorfinn knows at this point, if you try to combat them, you're just going to be left out in the world with nothing to do, or you get killed, or whatever happens to you, or you go somewhere that might be even worse, considering where Thorfinn is at this point. And Einar, so far from the 2 episodes we know of him, episode 1 was pretty much dedicated to showing who his background is, where he come from, what happens to him, etc. Because his mom died, sister died, they were pillaged, they were raided, all of that stuff. Came here, and he's really similar to Thorfinn, if anything. They're pretty much the same thing in terms of what happened to their people, and really emotionally how they feel towards like the people that killed their people, and anyone, I guess the Danes and the English, they have a vengeful nature towards them. Well, season 1 Thorfinn had vengeful nature. Einar still does. I just think that he's a lot more naturally high-headed in terms of how someone would really feel whenever they're really getting pushed or messed around by other people. And I like that in this episode, he was really understanding what the life of a slave was. He doesn't have that freedom anymore. He shouldn't be feeling happy or ecstatic that he's here, even though I'm sure that he's not. It's just that I think he was taking a little bit too much for granted, especially like what the master is extremely pretty much beneficial to them. He doesn't mistreat them in a way that, I don't know if he's underneath he's like a terrible guy, but from what I've seen so far, he comes up as a pretty good guy, and he's not necessarily using them or even viewing them as slaves. He just views them as workers for his eventual farm. And he's incredibly pissed as to what happened to him, and it's so interesting seeing Thorfinn, someone who's been through this, tell him to just ignore it pretty much. And I feel like there were parts in this episode, really small clips, like when Thorfinn was tightening the rope, or at the end when he was really thinking about what happened, like the raids and all that. It feels like Thorfinn still has a little bit in him this sense of hatred that he really wants to unleash, but I think he's still thinking about what Askeladd said, what Thor said to him. I think he's battling so much mentally. He's doing what he needs to do at this current point. But I feel like there's going to be a time where Thorfinn, I don't want to say snaps, but there's a moment where a realization is going to hit him, and he feels like he does need to fight back. Or maybe he escapes and he tries to, I don't know if he wants to change the way Vikings are viewed, and like even something like Valhalla, like we should strive for something outside of that. I'm really interested in seeing where Thorfinn goes as his character, because he's not necessarily coming off as like a leader for a protagonist. He comes off as someone who's very reactionary. So he's going to pretty much do whatever comes to his mind in best situation in terms of survival. And one of the big takeaways is Einar wanted to report what happened to them because of the lunches, and as he went there, I actually was wanted to see like what happens if he did report to him, because Thorfinn, he was so against him doing that. It's almost like Thorfinn has done it before and he just seen the repercussions of what happens. Maybe he gets a beating or something like that. But I was really interested to seeing the Master's response to what was going on, because it feels like the Master was not going to take their side. But regardless, he got stopped because I guess he was clearly infatuated by this woman that was behind him on this carriage. I don't know what part she's going to be playing in this. It seems like we're eventually going to be getting some type of love story between the two, which would be kind of on point, because there have been stories of like the slave getting with some noble woman in other stories. But I really should have seen where this one goes, because I feel like that woman is somehow connected to Ketli in some way. Not entirely sure, but I think she's going to have some sort of a way of helping Thorfinn and Einar. I don't know how. I don't know if she's going to have to like turn against like the Master or something. That seems like a storyline that's bound to happen between those two. And we get introduced to the Master's son, Omar. He wants to join Canut's army, even though he has a life set for him for taking over the farm. And this is another thing about warriors, because Einar even looked at him when he was getting ready to pull out his sword, because he had like an argument with his father about, you know, the crops and all this stuff, what to do. And he was just really just against, he didn't want to do this farm stuff because he looked at it like, this is tedious, repetitive work. This is something that's beneath me. And I think one thing we're going to get is he's going to learn the hard way that being a warrior or a fighter in this current time span is not something that should be glorified. And I think Einar said it best, people who are a part of war and have been a part of that, they're beasts, because a lot of things that you would think as a human or anything like that is thrown out the window. You're just going on pure survival and instinct, because you're taking people's lives away from them. And I want to see him actually learn that this life of being a warrior is not something that's easy. And especially with the way that he's approaching it, like he's going to disobey his father, like he's just going to run away and he's just going to go to Canute, get this lifestyle that he thinks he's going to get, and just get a moment of just like that moment of when life hits you, like this is real. I want him to experience that. Plus, real talk about Canute really quick. First of all, I seen his new design in the opening. He looks pretty cool. He looks completely different from the last time that we seen him. But I feel like Canute is going to go against, I guess, his brother. That's what I'm guessing, because we do know his brother's still out there and he's like his dad, so he's going to go up against Canute. Plus his dad is dead, and I'm pretty sure he knows that Canute has something to do with it or was behind it, while everybody else probably doesn't realize it, not because he knows that Canute was completely against his father. So I'm really interested in seeing Canute make his appearance in this season and what his goals or ambitions are as the prince. And one of the major things at the end was Thorfinn, while Einar was talking, they were getting ready to go to bed or whatever, and Einar's talking about what happened to him and his family and his village and the pillaging and all that stuff. And Thorfinn, while he's saying this, Thorfinn is just thinking about it. When he was like, I think Thorfinn was like 6 or 7 years old when he first saw like people raid villages and people just destroy whole families and homes and all of that. And I might have to go back and see season 1, but I don't remember Thorfinn being that young when he saw this. I remember there was a part where Askeladd brought him and I guess they raided other Vikings, but I don't remember Thorfinn being at that age and he saw other people getting, raided. There was a moment where he saw that when he was like, I think a couple years older, when he was with that one family, a sister and a mother, or a daughter and a mother, and he was with them and then they both got killed or something like that later on. And I think it was like episode 7. But this, I was really interested in seeing what more can come from that thought. Like, this is the thing with Thorfinn. It feels like he's conflicting with himself towards what he needs to do and what he wants to do. And hopefully in like the next episode, I want to see Thorfinn's thoughts on things such as raiding and what the Vikings did back in the day and a couple years ago while he was still out there. That's really all I want to see, because it's not too much I can really take from that last scene at the end. Yeah, that's my thoughts on everything that's happened in only these 2 episodes. Vinland Saga for me is one of those series where I think some of the main themes for what I'd say is like self-growth, reflect, and kind of think beyond the future, think about what really matters and what really should be valued in this world and in life. That's kind of the way I look at Vinland Saga. And I've seen some people say like, oh, people aren't gonna really enjoy it because it's like a completely 180, but it honestly hasn't been bad for me, because I don't watch Vinland Saga for just like brutality. That's just not even, and I think that's one of the themes, is like the brutality should not be kind of like glorified. So I don't know who's only watching it for that, because even like in the first 5 episodes, like it's more than just fights. It's like a whole philosophy upon like Viking lifestyle and all that. And by the way, the opening and the endings, those are, I mean, those are just bangers. I couldn't even describe it in words because Rivers, that's on the playlist, and then the ED, that is soulful. I like have to listen to it every time it comes on. And I just can't wait to see the rest of this season and this arc. So leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Everything, you know, all the YouTube stuff. I'll let y'all in the next one. Peace.
ようこそ逆さまの世界へ。